Oh. Okay, can we take our seats again, please, so we get started? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I shut down a bit.
Okay, welcome back. And HMS then for Ding Ding round 2. Over to you, John. Thanks.
Hello again. You'll be sick of me after this one. Hopefully not. Okay, so myself and Stu will do this presentation. And this is around how leaders make transformation stick. So really, it's talking to you about our cultural development journey. And this is something I'm really passionate about as Managing Director of HMS. When I was appointed into the role, well, less than a year ago now, it was something that I spoke to our CEO and COO about how, what my vision was for the organisation. And it was all driven by people. People make everything tick. And you've got to have the right culture in an organisation to make it thrive. And obviously there's stuff that we've encountered along the way that's provoked my thoughts about culture, but ultimately this is about our journey to date. And it's not complete yet because there's a long way to go, but we've made some really good strides. So I want to show you some of the key things that we've done in relation to our cultural journey over the last 18 months. But as I said, it's really about people and how people get on board with it. Organisational culture, what is it? Well, very basically, it's the way we do things around here. It's everything that we touch, everything that we do, our collaborations, the way we treat each other. The HMS Cultural Architect Programme, what's that? So this is a programme that I developed with the team, and we brought all our senior leaders on a journey here in relation to developing a framework that connects the culture with performance and leadership. And it's not just about how we do it, it's the way we do it. And we titled our model culture the HMS Way. So this was about how we brought our teams on board and on the journey, but they built the culture, if you like. So if you build the culture, that means it resonates more. So we put a lot of focus on that being the key catalyst for this cultural journey, if you like, and the drive. But why do we need to do anything? That's the key thing. Why are we not standing still? Are we good at what we do? Why do we need to do anything, and why do we need to change? And I think the slide before that I showed you kind of touches on that. Why do we need to change? There's certain things that you encounter that force a change in an organisation. And 2023-24 was the time where we felt that there was a big need to look at what we do because of the year that we went through. And we used the word a torrid year because it was a torrid year. And I mentioned before some of the issues that we had that led to that financial situation where there was the perfect storm, if you like, the third-party contracts that failed, our own contracts that were failing, our processes, our systems, everything came at once. And you'll have heard the term, never waste a good crisis. So we took this opportunity to bring out all of our dead, bury them all in a year and then move forward from there. But at the end of the day, the culture was one of the key things that needed to be looked at and how we did things around HMS. As I mentioned, they're the key challenges that we faced in terms of processing. But we had issues with complaints, they were increasing. We had issues with customer satisfaction, that was decreasing. Quality was questionable. Phil touched on relationships across the group. They were fragile. There was a lot of tetchiness. There was a lot of issues with regards to bringing a common purpose and a common way of thinking forward, and that's why I touched on the customer stuff before. But also these catalysts led to some senior structure changes in HMS, which were hard, and they were kind of hard hitting, and they had a big impact on the people in the business and on what we did and how we went about that. So things needed to change, but we needed some quick wins because change doesn't happen quickly, culture doesn't change quickly, cultural development doesn't change quickly, and people also are used to certain ways of working, and you've got to bring people on a journey. But we needed some quick wins. So has anybody heard of the broken windows theory in the room? So the broken windows theory was something that was brought into play in the 90s in New York. It had enormous impacts on crime in New York, and the police commission at the time was very much of the mindset, if we crack down on petty crime and low-level crime, then that will have an impact on reducing some of the more serious stuff that's going on in New York. And it's called the broken windows methodology, because if you've got a derelict property with a load of broken windows that don't get fixed, what does it encourage? It encourages more broken windows and more vandalism and more reasons to damage that building. It doesn't give a vision of that things are in good order, so it creates further signs of disorder. And if you don't deal with them small things, then bigger things tend to ensue. And that's the broken windows theory. Fixing the smaller things will then lead to different elements of accountability, maintaining higher standards, and providing and preventing that minor issues don't escalate then into something serious. And you can correlate that into business, and that's what we did. We used this methodology where if we're fixing our broken windows and the small things, that will have a bigger impact on the organisation moving forward. And we focus quite heavily on that early on in this journey. And like I said, cultural development takes a long time, but you can do some things that get some real traction and some real positives moving quite quickly. And we targeted quite quickly image and professionalism, because we didn't want any of these situations where we've got people rolling up at houses looking like a bag of washing and not taking kind of pride in how they look. We considered this to be a broken window because we'd lost our way in terms of this, and we were seeing dirty vans, we were seeing people just generally not taking a pride in what we're about and what we were trying to deliver. And we called it a broken window. So we quickly fixed that broken window, and we brought professionalism and image back into the forefront of everybody's thinking. And we use this for a lot of key things, a lot of small things. And people talk about it now as though it's mainstream in HMS. Oh, that's a broken window, we need to fix that. Oh, that's a broken window, we need to fix that. And it's had a real kind of reverberation around HMS, but also around the group now, because the broken windows theory is kind of caught on, because it's simple, people understand what it means, and if you start talking about broken windows, it tends to get kind of a course of looking at quite quickly. But not everything's small, and we've got some bigger issues that we needed to fix, and something we need to put a bit more effort into, and one of them was productivity. So I'll hand over to Stu for this section, then I'll come back after that, if that's okay. Thank you. The right hand button there.
Morning, everyone. So I'm Stuart Furlong. I'm the Business Compliance Manager of HMS. But one of my passions is pretty much data and performance, really. So I'm going to go through some elements of what we've been working on over the last couple of years, which ties into that sort of cultural architecture. And it works very well side by side. So in terms of managing our productivity, one of the traditional ways we used to do it was managing by SOR value. So everybody sort of tried to compete in terms of how much money they were bringing in. That's how they were judged. In terms of management, when I joined the company when we amalgamated 5-6 years ago, the way I looked at it and how it was managed, it was really difficult to sort of monitor. You take a look at different work streams, everybody working in a different way. It was managed solely within that work stream. Nobody was challenged. As long as the bottom line looked good, everything was fine. In terms of the data, it was all held within Microsoft Excel and required loads and loads of manual intervention. So I don't know about anybody else, but I learned Microsoft Excel in the early 90s. So to see a business with this kind of turnover and this amount of opportunity to work with managing by Excel was really sort of, for me, a bitter pill to swallow. We utilised about 10 or 15 reports in the background that will feed into a sheet. So in terms of issues that would arise, they were quite regular. One of the biggest things is that we couldn't judge somebody's performance until the end of the month, when all the holidays and the absence had been taken into consideration, and we see when they're available and not available. So it's according through the month, managers would look at it and go, he seems to be doing all right, she seems to be doing okay, but we're not going to find out until the first of next month. And that's when all the reports sort of came in. So managing it was really difficult. In terms of any issues that managers encountered, drilling into performance, specifically the claims. So to do that, they couldn't do it via the sheet. They had to go and send an email to my team. My team would drag out a raw data file. 9 times out of 10, my team would send it back in a raw data file. And you're asking a manager then to sort of drill into the team's own performance that way. So it was a bit time consuming as well. There was no standardised approach to PDA use. So if you were an operative working in voids, you used a PDA a completely different way to an operative working in responsive repairs. So if you had somebody who was moving work streams to a couple of weeks to help out, they wouldn't be using the PDA in the way that manager would want them to do it. So training was an issue as well. So the standards have dropped a bit there also. As I say, true reflection of productivity could only be judged at the end of the month. So as an operative, you had no idea how you were getting on. If you asked your manager, how am I doing? You go, I think you're doing all right. We'll tell you in 3 weeks. We'll pull you into the room, have a look then. So it's really a hard way of managing things. And operatives relied solely on manager feedback. So some managers would be fabulous at feedback, others might need a little bit of a nudge. So we had to change it. So what we needed was a consistent approach. We wanted everybody working to the same rules. So as I said to you, when an operative comes into the business and you get that PDA, they know exactly what they're doing from start to finish. If you're working in responsive move to voids, you need to make sure that you're following the right rules. We standardised everything. So when you come in, here's what you do, here's how you manage it. And we gave everybody training. So what used to happen was that when you were brought in, your manager was responsible for training you on how to use your PDA. And they'd be responsible for monitoring for the first couple of weeks. And it would work for some people and not for all. We also needed accurate recording of productivity. So what we wanted to do is bring something in place, and I think we mentioned before with regards to Power BI, which, as Gail said, was a game changer. For me, it certainly was. It requires very little intervention, and that's what we needed. And we wanted it up to date. We didn't want people waiting 2 or 3 weeks at a time to understand how they were getting on. So we wanted something that was sort of as live as it could be. In terms of visibility, we centralised all the dashboards. The way it used to work was that you'd have an Excel sheet and that would be managed by that team, and they'd only give visibility to people who asked for it. It's now centralised. Anybody can look at it. Heads of service, directors. I can look at any team manager can look at any other team to compare sort of how they're getting on to the peers. And we need to make data available to the operatives. So I mentioned before when somebody asked the question in terms of how operatives now use it, it's that parent-parent relationship. Operatives can now look at their own performance without having to go to a manager. They can pull it down whenever they want, and we're going to show you that in a minute as well. And also we've introduced some dedicated monthly reporting to several forums. We have things called quality improvement sessions that run every month. We have leadership every month. We don't go into too much detail at all these forums, but it's always on the agenda. It's always noted, so your contract managers in the room, they know what we're talking about, and they know if questions get asked to them, what they need to come back with as well. So I've got a bit of a 5-minute video for you, which will sort of demonstrate the sort of things we've introduced over the last couple of years. Hopefully it works.
Welcome to this overview of HMS Productivity Tools, a suite designed to empower both managers and operatives with actionable insights and performance data. In this video, we'll walk through the key features that make this system a powerful tool for productivity tracking and improvement. Let's begin with what managers see. Each manager is provided with a summary screen, populated by data from their operatives. This screen includes metrics such as available hours, total hours the operative was scheduled to work factoring in absence and manager approvals, on-site productivity, a measure comparing time spent on-site against the SMV, standard minute value, claimed, total productivity. This compares the SMV value claimed to the operative's available hours. Non-productive time, time not contributing to productive output. This dashboard gives managers a clear, data-driven view of individual and team performance. Next, we have the target setting and comparison tools. These allow managers to compare operatives within the same trade across different work streams, identify high performers and those needing support, conduct performance clinics, structured sessions where managers can review metrics with operatives and set improvement plans when necessary. This fosters a culture of transparency and continuous improvement. Another valuable feature is the SMV Addition Summary. This tool enables contract managers to view and analyze additional time that has been manually added by managers. The purpose of these additions is to explain discrepancies in productivity and reduce the amount of non-productive time where justified. By reviewing these additions, contract managers gain deeper insight into operational realities and can ensure that productivity metrics reflect actual working conditions. The route tracking feature adds another layer of insight. Managers can view an operative's route for the day, including travel paths to and from sites, time spent in transit, and patterns or deviations from expected behavior. This helps identify inefficiencies and supports better planning and accountability. Finally, we have the Operative Productivity app, available directly on each operative's device. This app provides real-time personal metrics. Operatives can view their available hours, on-site productivity, total productivity, and non-productive time, all updated regularly and tailored to their individual performance. Transparency and engagement. The key metrics available to managers are also available here, ensuring full transparency in the data. Operatives are able to drill into data specific to all of the jobs they have attended, giving them a clear view of their contributions and outcomes. Customer satisfaction scores and comments. Operatives receive their customer satisfaction scores and feedback directly through the app. This feature has been especially well received, offering a sense of recognition and accountability. Performance trends. The app allows operatives to track their performance over time, helping them identify areas for improvement and celebrate progress. A dedicated help page is provided within the app to give operatives a clear understanding of where the data comes from and how it is calculated. This ensures confidence in the metrics and supports informed conversations around performance. This tool ensures that operatives are not just monitored but actively involved in their own performance journey. To recap, the HMS operative productivity tools available offer a comprehensive ecosystem for performance tracking, comparison, and improvement, benefiting both managers and operatives alike. Whether it's through detailed dashboards, route insights, or personal feedback, these tools are designed to drive productivity and accountability across the board. Thank you for watching.
Okay, so from that video you can see we've moved away from sort of the SOR management and more to SMV. So we can sort of manage people and compare performance based on time, because that's the one constant that everybody's got, is working to time. Since we introduced these things, this is sort of little milestones that we've had, and a few hiccups, if I'm quite honest with you. On the right-hand side, there's a table and there's a chart. On the left-hand side, it sort of explains sort of our little journey. So period one, you can see we've done a bit of, we launched it. We let teams manage it themselves. It was a soft launch. Very limited training, and you'll see on the chart there that our performance, the blue column is our total productivity. So this is the amount of SMVs they're claiming against how much time they're actually employed to work that week, and it was down at 82%. And there was one of the big reasons for that. And when I say it was, there was limited training, we forgot probably our biggest user of this dashboard, which was the operative. We sort of kept it at a management level. So we had to go back to the drawing board on that one and take that one on the chin. In terms of the green line there, that's our on-site productivity. So when our operatives actually get on site and start the job and complete the SORs and they book the time against the job, it's how we're performing. So it was around 92%, which wasn't too bad, to be fair, for the first go. When we introduced our second period in July 24, we established an SMV project team, and that's a dedicated resource within the team. We've got our day jobs again, as we mentioned before, but that's myself. There's a head of service involved in there. There's HMS systems, so any issues that come up with operatives using the PDs can be identified quite quickly. And we've got our Taurus BI team as well, who are the brains behind this. To be honest with you, we just sort of give them ideas and they build them for us. We looked at some general targets. It was very difficult to put targets in place because it was very new to the business. We'd never managed on time before. So rather than say, here's what we expect, we said, well, let's have a look at it. Let's see what we get back over the first few months, and we'll manage by exception. So any operatives who potentially, through no fault of their own, don't know how to use PDA properly, we'll get them and we'll look at it. If people are generally not doing what they should be doing, we'll get them in and we'll speak to them about it. We had an issue where we'd have teams working together, and rather than everybody recording their own work and booking their own time, you'd have one person would claim everything, so they'd be at 11,500% performance, and everybody to work would be at 0. So that was something we need to look at as well. But after we introduced the SMV project team, you can see it sort of jumped a little bit. So our total productivity pushed up to 88%, and our on-site around 95%, which was a really good output, to be honest with you, when we looked at the data. In period 3, April 25, so only last year, we analysed a lot of the data. So the first years of data, we were happy with what we were seeing. We weren't convinced all the time. So we had to make sure that everybody was working to the same level. To do that, what we did, we got every single operative in, and we brought them off-site, which was a lot of downtime as well. And we trained every single person. We explained to them the reason why we brought this in. We garnished some feedback from them, how it would work for them, what we can change. And we came to sort of that common ground of why we introduced it. Anybody we missed, we mopped up. We've now made it part of our induction programme, which will go into a bit more detail shortly. And we have performance clinics, which were headed by the project team, which is not what we want to do. So a performance clinic would be, we would look at operatives and go, right, this trade seems to be averaging around about 85%. But you've got maybe a couple of operatives that are around 40% or 50%. You might want to go and take a look at them. And we'd sort of feed the contract managers. We've done that for a few months just to sort of get everybody on the same page and working to the same way. Once we introduced that, as you can see, our total productivity went up again, and so did our on-site productivity. And period 4, from August 25 to 26, all the performance clinics are now managed by operational teams. And we have dedicated reporting. So what I will do every single month, I'll pull all that information together, I'll report it into our senior leadership team, we'll take it to our away days, and we'll put it on a board, and everybody can sort of have their own little say about what they think's a challenge for them, what needs to change, what things going well for them, and share that amongst the group, the contract teams as well. So some shared learning. And we're sort of levelling out a bit now. So around about 91% for total productivity, 96% in terms of our on-site productivity, which is really good output, but it doesn't stop there. So what we're going to do next, we're going to take all that data from the last year, and we're going to go down to sort of trade level and sort of look at what trades can perform slightly better, what trades are performing at the right level. When people come into the business, what do we expect of them? There's been a hell of a lot of research and a hell of a lot of analysis on this. And we're at a good place now, but I think what we see today will be completely different in 12 months. There'll be more things added to it. There'll be more outcomes as well. And this is what we see today. We've got no stone unturned. So that dedicated project group is still going. We still meet weekly. If team managers come up with an issue, they'll email it to one of the project team. We'll take it into the project meeting every single week, and we'll try and get an answer for them. If anybody's got any ideas, we'll take it on board and we'll try and develop something that'll help. There's probably about 4 or 5 things we're working on now to improve the dashboard. Operational teams have been included throughout the journey. As I say, training for all. dedicated on site, so you can imagine how much downtime was involved in that. Anybody who was struggling after that initial session, we offered them more training, or we brought them in if we thought we needed more training, and it's now part of the induction process. So what we do now is that we look at the performance and we look at our established staff and what level they're performing at, and our newer members of staff. Now, if we see a massive gap in a work stream where new members of staff are not performing to the level we'd hoped they would be, that's a question for us, for the contract teams. Have they been inducted correctly? Are you helping them through those first few months to make sure that they know what they're doing, the PDAs? And we've got some other work streams that are performing absolutely well, where the new members of staff are actually outperforming the existing members of staff, which is really good to see, because it shows that that training is working, that message is getting through at the very beginning. They're not starting cold, they're not coming in and trying to learn off somebody else, and it's a really good thing to see. And I think as a general rule of thumb, is that we are seeing those lines, that difference in performance between the more experienced members of staff and the newer staff. It's getting closer and closer and closer. So when we've done it in the old way, we'd sort of go, oh, they're new, it'll take them a few months to catch up. Unfortunately for us, we've got customers at the end that need that work doing, so they don't care how new they want that job done. Ongoing reviews, as I say, every week we meet. What you see now, you won't see in 12 months' time, be completely different. I provide all the updates to the senior leadership team, and I think it sort of ties in with what John's going through and the cultural architecture stuff. It fell at the right time for us. We started the journey, we weren't where we needed to be. Performance wasn't the level we wanted to be. And I think now when we're getting those 30 senior leaders in the room, everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. So it's really good to see for us. So that's our SMV productivity. And I will hand it back over to John.
Thanks for that, Stu. So as you can see, we've made a lot of strides, if you like, and in particularly, the team have put a lot of effort into the productivity and how we measure productivity. But we've travelled a long, long way, but we still have a mountain to climb. So as we mentioned, things began to improve. What did we do? We implemented a new structure. The productivity tool that Stu just walked you through, then we embedded, and that's now mainstream, if you like. Gail referred to the commercial reporting and the key principles project, how we made sure that was robust and visible and transparent. And again, when we were confident in the numbers that we were receiving. We looked at the entire governance reporting structure and the regime of how information flows up and down through HMS, but not only through HMS, but from HMS to Taurus as well, to make sure that governance was in place. We dealt with the professionalism straight away. I mentioned the broken windows before. And the quality and the customer journey started to improve steadily, but that's really ramped up now. And we can share some, obviously, insights into how we've dealt with some of them key areas. But ultimately, and this is, again, about the people thing as well, colleagues actually want to do the right thing. They just need some good direction. They want to feel part of something that's moving in the right way. They want to be part of an organisation that cares, and they want to be part of a culture that they can get behind. So that leads me on to the HMS Cultural Architect programme, which we developed. And this was, as we mentioned before, it was designed to challenge the leaders and develop a framework that connects the culture, the performance, and the leadership together. We brought all the contract managers and above into a number of sessions. We did about nine sessions on this. So there was a lot of downtime, but we wanted people to be embedded in it. We wanted people to get on board with it. And then focus sessions were about modelling that culture with tangible standards of performance. We didn't want it to be complex. We wanted it to people to be able to understand it. And we wanted to do it with the leaders. We didn't want to do it to the leaders. It was about making sure that people were having a voice, because if people are involved in something and then people are involved in building something, not only will they own it, they'll be accountable and they'll live and breathe it every day, which was what really, really mattered in this, because if you're going to make a transition, people do need to own it and believe in it, because if people don't believe in it, then it's going to fall at the first hurdle. But ultimately, we needed to define what good looks like for everybody, so people know what the expectation is. But how we lead and collaborate on that and deliver things effectively is ultimately where we wanted to be. So this was the HMS way. This was our target operational organisational culture, if you like. And it's not just what we do, it's how we do it. That's really, really key. Early observations, and I think some of you might have encountered this yourselves. It's all right having values, but what do they mean? If they're not clear, if they're not specific, if people can't translate them into behaviours, what's the point of them? They just become something that's there that nobody actually can relate to. We found competency frameworks were complicated, difficult to manage. Frontline colleagues had a list of competencies that they needed to be able to live up to, and that was becoming problematic. That created ineffective one-to-ones, and as we all know, one-to-ones are really, really important. But one-to-ones became ineffective and became laborious. And then annual performance reviews, PDRs, appraisals, whatever you want to call them, complex, monotonous, difficult to get over the line, people not wanting to do them, people being not really, it was a bit of a tick box at times, but also a problem as well, because people wouldn't be having one-to-ones and then they'd have an annual review and it'd become a shock if there was some kind of issues that needed to be dealt with. So we tried to simplify things in relation to the culture we were looking for. We developed 9 standards of performance. They're linked to the group values, but also they was able to translate the culture into everyday behaviours that people could relate to. We've reframed the one-to-ones to focus on these standards, and also whether people were living up to them standards. And you could get when we get the operatives and the staff to talk through how they've met them standards and what them standards mean to them. So it's more of an interactive way instead of being talked about. And scrapping PDRs, that was a big thing as well, because if you're having a regular one-to-one and you're talking about things every month, every 2 months, it's just another one-to-one, isn't it, with setting some objectives for the following year and whether you've done well this year, but you should be doing that anyway. So the annual PDRs became problematic, and we've took a different look at that. So how does it all flow together? And I mentioned it's got to hang itself from the group values, which it does. So we own, we care, we deliver the Taurus group values, and we got the team to produce a cultural statement of how they felt HMS was going to relate to that. And they came up with, we are a caring, empowered and accountable team that people are proud to be part of. It took us about a day to get to that. But when you put it into real terms, it actually links quite closely to we own it, we care and we deliver. And that was really key to us, because we didn't want to disassociate ourselves from the Taurus group. We wanted to live and breathe the Taurus values, but we wanted to create tangible outcomes that people at HMS could use to show that they are actually living them values. So we created the standards of performance, and I realise that's a very, very wordy slide, and I'll scale it down a little bit in a sec. But as you can see, we've got we own it, we care and we deliver. But if I take away the key headings, and then I'll focus on one of the objectives in its own right. It's about taking ownership. It's about challenging and supporting each other, which is really important. It's about everybody being a leader and leading visibly. It's about respect. It's about working as a team. And this is something that we've really pushed about working as one team, because everybody at HMS is part of a team. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what environment you're in. It doesn't matter what team you're in. You're part of that one team. And we've really tried to break down them silos. We've really tried to make sure that we're collaborating together, and we're asking for that feedback from everybody in whatever role they do, so we continuously look to improve. The commitment and, the recognising and improving, I just touched on them, that is about making sure we absolutely celebrate achievements and good stories. I'll be honest, we were a bit rubbish at that. We were a bit rubbish. You tend to focus on stuff that's going wrong and not stuff that's going right. We've put a major emphasis now on making sure we're recognising where these good behaviours are coming from, where the great outcomes are coming from, and we're celebrating that. And we're making sure that people are recognised for the good work that they do, and there's loads of it. And Gail touched on it before in relation to the 5 out of 5 club, and that's in lights every month, because at the end of the day, why shouldn't we be celebrating good practice, good success, good outcomes, great feedback from the customers? We send that everywhere now. We show people what feedback people have been getting. Look at this guy, he's been brilliant. You were brilliant last month, you're brilliant next month. It's really important that celebrating of achievements is something that people take on board and don't just look at the stuff that's going wrong. The commitment to the customer, absolutely huge, and we've been that thread of what we've been talking about has been the customer from the very first slide I put up before that Jen kindly referred to, but all the way through in terms of the relationships with the clients, but also to the end product and making sure that we're delivering the service that everybody would expect in their own home. Pursuing excellence and staying resilient, and resilience is really key because it's a tough old world out there, and not everybody's happy all the time. People have different concerns, different issues. We need to be accounting for that, and we need to make sure we're supporting our colleagues, but also we need to make sure that we're supporting our colleagues in other environments as well. But it's about staying resilient and working together. If I take that top one, which is taking ownership, we've broke it down a stage further so everybody can understand what it means to them. And every role's got these little blobs, if you like, so they can see how it means to them. So if you're an operative, so the taking ownership standard is being accountable for your actions, results, and the promises you make, no excuses. What does that mean to an operative? It means complete the job to the highest standard. Don't leave it for somebody else to fix, so making sure we're concentrated on right first time. Keeping customers informed if there's a delay or an issue. That's just about good practice and good communication with the customer. Making sure you've got the right bits to do the job. And if there's anything that's going to go wrong, or if there's anything that you see that's a safety concern or an issue, report it early. They're dead straightforward things that operatives can relate to. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a big load of competencies. It's what does that mean to me? And the same goes for a manager. Close the loop on issues, never leave problems for other people to pick up. Don't blame other teams, focus on solutions. Because we have that all the time, or it was them, it was assets, it was the clients, it was them, and everybody gets the blame. No, focus on the solution and not looking at the blame. Make sure you complete your actions. That's something that's really key. We all go into meetings, there's actions not finished. No, do your actions, make sure you understand that that's what we're gonna measure you on. Understand the team's priorities and expectations, but also making sure that communication up and down is where it needs to be. So for every standard that we've got there, which is 9, we've got these tangible outcomes that people need to work to so they can relate to it in their own way, and that applies to every role at HMS. And that's the same for all the standards. So we've tried to put a lot of effort into making it easy for people to understand. We've also tried to visualise certain things so it's easy for people to understand as well. We've got our pyramid there, which if we take it in terms of the foundations form the base, and then we own it, we care, deliver, moving through the pyramid. And ultimately it's about being proud to work for the organisation. And if you're living these standards and breathing these standards, we believe that proud to work for HMS and proud to be part of what the organisation's trying to achieve will bear its fruit moving forward. And you can see in the middle there, the team, the one team ethic that we talked about before, we, not me. We move that quite a long way in terms of that team focus, and we use we, not me in everything we talk about now, because it isn't a silo, it isn't about one team, it isn't about one person, it's about us all collectively. We succeed together, but we also fail together as well, but that success is something that we're really trying to focus on. We've also set out some promises, what we're going to do if we're a leader. It's about being visible, fair, forward-thinking. And they can't be just words. These have got to be really things that you can get behind, because words can tend to fall apart and people go, oh, there's just something else that, yeah, it's a load of fancy words, it's not going to work. That's not what this is about. This is about things that people can relate to. So if you're role modelling the standards and the behaviours, people are going to see that you're role modelling them, and then that team is then going to look to role model them too. So role modelling is one of the big things about this cultural development programme, and making sure that people do look at it and go, you know what, I am a role model, I am going to live and breathe these standards, so the rest of the organisation can get behind it. Communication and consistency, holding teams to account and people to account. Again, if people aren't following the standards or not in line with what we're trying to achieve, we need to be challenged. There's a lot of issues where people go unchallenged and it gets brushed under the carpet. No, that's not what we're about. This is what we're trying to achieve. You need to address that. You need to have a look at it. So that's one of the big things about getting people to hold people to account, as you know, and that's a lot of work we're placing emphasis on at the minute. But again, as I mentioned, championing them success stories. It can't be all negative. It's got to be about what the outcomes of these programs are and how we're realising and how we're seeing things progress, and then celebrating and communicating that in the right way. Same goes for our colleagues. Very simple. Show respect, be collaborative, be accountable for what you're doing, but ultimately take pride in what you're doing again. Living, upholding the standards, supporting and challenging each other, communication. There's a thread that runs through all of these things, which are dead simple, but dead effective. And if you can get people on the shop floor living and breathing them the same as the managers will, that's the bit that we're trying to crack at the minute. So it's an ongoing process and something that we're really putting a lot of emphasis into it. Sorry. But we get to this place called what we call the sticky middle. So you've got your senior leaders who are all bought in and who've been part of this programme. And then you've got the first line managers and the direct managers of the people on the ground. And they're the bit that can make and break this. And these are the ones who we've really put a lot of emphasis on, because everybody at the senior level is really engaged. But then you've got so many people at this level who you need to win over, and they're a really tough nut to crack. So the emphasis has really got to be on these people to bring them on the journey and get them to see what good looks like, to enable them to translate that to their teams. So this is the area where we are at the minute, and we've really focused on empowering you to do this. You do not need permission, you don't need a new process, you don't need a meeting to discuss it. This is about them standards and how you, as a role model, are going to embed them within your team. And that's something that we've really focused hard on, and we're still doing that now with this sticky middle, as we call it, first-line management, first-line leaders, who are going to ultimately be leading the teams on the shop floor and making sure that these things continue to be talked about. They have the influence. They're talking to the teams every day. They're talking about subcontractors aren't excluded from this, because we have a lot of subbies, as we talked about before. But they're the ones who can influence the subbies, the team, standards on site, the workplace culture that we're trying to enforce. If you bring that cohort through on this journey effectively, the sky's the limit. And we've really sort of pinpointed that as this is the critical part of the journey, where if we bring these people on board the right way, then sky really is the limit for us. I want to focus on what it is and what it's not. It's about clear standards. It's about consistent leadership. It's about everyday behaviours. It's not about words. It's not a fancy slogan. It's definitely not a flash in the pan, and we're not going to treat it as an initiative that just won't work. A lot of downtime, a lot of investment, a lot of thought has got into this. We're not just going to sit back and let it be something that just fizzles out. We're really putting the hard yards into trying to make this work, and we're seeing the benefits from it as well, because words absolutely mean nothing. It's about behaviours and about how it shows up in them daily actions that people can relate to, and then live and breathe it, as we talked about. So taking it to the front lines, yes, we've got the sticky middle, but how do we get it out there in front of the operatives as well? We talked about some of these standards and what it means to them. Workshops, again, nothing too intense. We have a bi-monthly team briefing that we use quite effectively for different kinds of communication protocols. We're focusing very heavy on them briefings to bring the teams together so they understand what that's about in terms of the HMS way. We're using them sessions to really drive this home, and we're doing a fancy thing called town halls as well on Teams, which is amazing, where we're talking about how our vision and how things can move forward, because when you've got 827 people, it's difficult to get them all in one room at the same time. So technology is really helping that as well. Lots of branding, lots of workshops, but also site walkarounds and visits. We're visible now as senior leaders more than we've ever been. You tend to get brought in, you tend to end up getting stuck in the rigmarole of being in the meeting room, being in the office and never getting out to site. We've pushed our senior teams now to be out there, looking what's going on, talking to people, understanding people's concerns and understanding the challenges they face, so we can factor that back into this whole cultural journey and making sure that we're there and we're not just talking about it, we're actually living and breathing it as well. Challenging POPA standards, aligning with one-to-ones, as I mentioned. We've switched the one-to-ones now to be more proactive in relation to the standards and the appraisals. Obviously, we've scaled them down. But making sure that anything that is a problem that needs to be challenged, we're supporting our teams to nip things in the bud and make sure that they're addressed early on so they don't get out of hand, and holding people to account. As I mentioned about celebration, monthly awards and shout-outs, that's been a big thing. So little things go a long way. Vouchers, little sort of gestures, but thank you goes a big way more than anything. Well done, you've done a great job. It doesn't have to be about money, it doesn't have to be about something that's fancy. A simple thanks, a simple recognition, a simple name in the team brief to say, look, this person's done absolutely fantastic. These shout-outs are something that we've really focused on because, like I said, we worked great at it previously, and we've really put a lot of effort into that as well. And then we brought in cultural champions from every area of the business, operatives, managers, support staff, to make sure that they're helping spread them positive conversations and spreading that cultural development. But last but not least, it cannot be just words, as I mentioned. How are we going to measure it? Because you've got to measure it and you can't just talk about it. So likewise, probably you all have a colleague survey every year where we ask everybody how people feel about certain things, and you might like some things, might like not like other things. We're hoping to see a positive impact on the colleague survey because of this, and because of some of the things we've done with terms and conditions. That'll obviously make some positivity, but in terms of how people feel is what we're looking for. In terms of whether people feel valued, that colleague survey, we're hoping to get some positive kickback from that, and colleague satisfaction. They're happy to work for HMS. They'd recommend it to their friends. We're hoping to see a reduction in people coming and going, because of what we're trying to build and want people to be a part of. But also you'll see things like increased customer satisfaction, decreases in complaints, which are hopefully what we're going to try and get as well, but also that productivity, that collaborative cross-functional working. We're hoping that that's going to be absolutely where it needs to be as well, and hopefully just become that trusted partner within the Taurus Group for as long as it continues. But what we have noticed is the stuff that we're doing here is actually kicking back into the Taurus Group, and they're noting saying, you know what, this is pretty good. I think we want some of that ourselves. So we've kind of set a little bit of a standard moving forward in terms of culture for the group. So hopefully people can see the good work that we've done and jump on the back of it. So it's still very early stages. We've come a long way. We're in that sticky middle. We're moving to the operatives next, but the will's there, the commitment's there, and if we get the right balance of role modelling, we'll be able to come back next year and show you just how effective it's been to a close. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, John. Question? No, thanks again. I think it was excellent. Great to see the journey. I'm glad you've rocked up today and done it again, because I think it's a brilliant journey. And I think not just about the numbers, I think are the numbers, but I think it's the whole cultural piece, the transformation for me. It's about the way you've done it. And I think that you are at scale, we get that, but I think a lot of what you've done could be done at any level, at any scale. You don't have to be a massive company to do that. I think there's so many golden nuggets in there that people can take away. So personally, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just open it up to any questions on the floor, please. Yeah, go on, Mark.
Hello. Probably you, Stu. You've got the two measures for productivity, the SMV, because we ditched the cash because it's as it is. I was just a bit unsure about what you've got, the green line, the maximum one, then the one below it. If you could explain that, please. Maybe it's just me that I've not sunk in, but...
Yeah, so there's two measures that we use. So we have our on-site productivity. It's just when the operative is actually on site at the property, they've got the tools in the hand, they're in the property and they're doing the job, how much time's allocated to that job to be completed and how much time they actually take. And then we've got our total productivity, and that's how many SMVs they're delivering against what they are contracted to work that week. So that takes into account like the downtime, the travel and all, going here, there and everywhere. So they're the two measures. So ideally we want to see our on-site productivity as close to 100% or above as possible. And our total productivity, we're pushing that, and that we're looking at ways of how to improve that. So to prevent people from coming back to the office for whatever reason, to make sure that the jobs they're going to, they can get to quickly enough and stuff like that. So that's our next challenge, to try and improve that. But I think where we are now, we're in a good place, but we do think we can get better as well.
First of all, an observation, just echo Russell's comments, and well done to John, you and all your team. A fantastic presentation. particularly in depth and so on. Just digging away at some of that, I think some of the big problems that we've probably all got in the room is that issue around accountability and empowerment to the lowest common denominator, so to speak, and inevitably that is with the frontline tradesmen time after time. The bit that we all seem to get wrong or struggle with is when we don't complete a job and we need that communication with the customer and we haven't got the technology to support it. Your bit is that accountability is with the frontline guy stroke middle manager. How have you uncovered sort of that issue and got the fantastic results we're seeing today? Is that a link between your systems availability to the front line and the ability to communicate effectively with the customer, or is there something we're missing here?
No, Gail, do you want to pick that up?
So the accountability part we've put on the operative, so we've said if you've got to go back because you haven't got the materials, or a colleague has got to go back, you're the plasterer and a painter's got to go, you cannot leave that customer's home until you've rang back to the scheduling team, got the appointment locked in there and then, and that way the customer knows exactly when we're coming back and the reasons why, and we can forget about it then until the next. What we really want is the technology to be able to do that, so he can book the appointment himself and doesn't have to make that phone call. At the minute we've not got that, but with the new systems that we're bringing in, the operative will be able to do that from site himself.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just hold on a minute.
Just a follow-up on the sort of operative utilisation against the SMVs. How do you make sure that the jobs are raised initially with the correct SORs and SMVs listed, or are you relying on the guys varying the works orders through the PDA to pick up them SMVs?
So, I mean, it all depends where the job's raised. You're right there, yes. So if it's raised in the customer hub, it could be a completely different job when the guy gets on site. Obviously, we've trained our guys to be able to communicate in the right way, feedback in so that there's that 360-degree kind of loop, and then boot the right things there and then. But again, that comes back in for review. So they're not actually booking what they've set out to do. It's a complete change, and there's loads of that. But I think, Gail, the scheduling team are heavily involved in that as well, aren't they? Do you want to pick it up?
We'll give the operatives a value that they can vary a job up to themselves, which helps with that kind of unreliability sometimes. Then the team managers have got a further variation, so the operative would need to get that check. If it's way different from what they've originally gone to, Taurus surveyors are on hand as well, so they can ring a surveyor, they can FaceTime them, and they can say, listen, this is what the job was raised at, this is actually what it's like, and get the approval again there and then on site. So we can either, if we can, what they will do then, if it varies massively, so they should have been there for an hour and now it's going to take 8 hours, the first thing they'll do is ring the scheduling team and say, can you move whatever else is in my diary so I can stay? That's always the drive for the schedulers, to make sure they can do that. If it's a rammed day and they can't, then we will, again, make that appointment to go back.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers.
Anybody else? Yeah, Colin?
Hi, John.
Oh.
Yeah, your transformation has been fantastic. You know, credit to you and your team. One of the questions I have for you is just going back to the customer. You're putting the customer at the heart of everything. When you're obviously, your operatives are out in the field and they're interacting with the customer, are they influencing the scoring matrix? So, as an example, are they saying to your customers, we have a matrix, you'll get a text back through, it's obviously 1 to 5, we obviously prefer to score as a 5. Are you getting true data?
We tackled that early on, to be honest, really early on, because when we first started with regards getting detailed customer satisfaction, we wanted to make sure that there wasn't any intimidation, if you like, and things that could unduly influence scoring. So we brought all the operatives in and about how this was going to work, and we didn't want it to be anything where operatives were putting customers under pressure. So as Gail mentioned, the text only comes after an hour, so there's no pressure on that person with somebody overlooking them there and then to say, can you fill that in, can you do that now, blah, blah, blah. They've gone and they've left. If there's a problem, we've communicated to customers that they need to feed back where there's any issues that could unduly, wrongly influence them scoring issues, if you like. But the fact that the operative's not there, the customers are still in their own home and they can give an accurate reflection of where they are without anybody breathing down the neck, if that's fair. There might be the odd instance, I think, but I think it's something that we tackle quite early on, Gail.
So if you got a low score then, just say you got a 2 or a 1, what do you do about that if that came back?
The scores come through real time, so we can either review them real time or we get a report the following day. And anyone, so 1 or 2 is very dissatisfied, 3 is neutral, 4 is happy, and 5 is ecstatic. So anybody that scores us between 1 and 3, we'll give that customer a ring either the same day or the following day and say, you've filled in this survey, you've scored, can we have some... They'll give the detail generally with the comments anyway, but we'll pick it up and we treat that exactly the same as we would a formal complaint. So we go through the same process. We'll investigate it, we'll find out what's gone wrong. If it needs a corrective action, we'll do that. So we follow the same process. The only benefit is it's more instant. With a complaint, you've got 10 working days to get back to a customer. With this delighted feedback, you can nip it in the bud straight away. And it's probably been one of the big things that's helped us, certainly when we had the influx of operatives coming in, we could find out straight away if operatives weren't right for us because you were getting feedback literally from the first encounter they'd had with customers. So it really, that for me has been one of the game changers in sort of where we're setting the stand. This is the standard of quality. This is the standard of professionalism. It's coming through straight away from every single operative, so we know exactly who's right for the business and who's not.
I think in relation to the kind of I will be getting this scoring matrix too. Yeah, they're gonna talk to the customer about it, and we've kind of trained the operatives to say, if you're happy with what I've done, please can you let the team know they're happy with what I've done, because we do focus on that celebration now in terms of good performance. But I think the fact that it's delayed as well as give that kind of separation between it being there and then.
Yeah, we used to. Before we had this system in, it used to be the operative would hand his PDA to the customer and say, can you give me some feedback? And that was very kind of, they did probably feel intimidated and they'd give something because the guy's in front of them. And I think probably what we found, which for me is really, really pleasing, when a customer does give us poor feedback, it's generally the quality of work wasn't great. The positive feedback that we're getting is very emotive. It's not about the quality of work, it's about how the operative, he was polite, he was professional, he was really helpful, he stroked me dog, he was really, really nice with my autistic child. Do you know what I mean? It's very emotive, the feedback that we're getting. But, I mean, when we do get complaints, you know what I mean? But it is really, it's more emotive what we're getting than quality, which is really good to see.
Thank you.
Great, just a question from me, if you don't mind, sorry. Just in terms of, I mean, I think, I know Mike and I have spoken about this a few times, but in terms of us going around different organisations, I do feel that behaviour has dropped, I think, and the standards of behaviour, I think, and the culture in organisations is not where it should be. And Mike and Richard and the team gave a presentation last year about actually sticking to doing your job. And I'm just thinking, how hard was it now? How brave have you been in terms of challenging some of that behaviour? And I would no doubt, and I'd question anyone in this room to tell me that they haven't got people that they're often challenging that behaviour. It's difficult, but how have you got around that? How have you persisted? And how have guest junior members of staff have maybe had to challenge behaviour of senior members? Because that's a real push as well. It could be an operative, for argument's sake. So I'd be interested to see how you got over that, please, John.
A really good question, to be honest, Russell, yeah. And the keeping it simple part is one of the big things, as we said about, if you've got some set standards that people can relate to, that's everybody. So everybody can see if people are abiding by them standards or not, whether you're working for somebody or whether that person's working for you. We've seen an increase of challenge between peer groups as well. So we've had, as I mentioned, we're doing the next tier at the minute in terms of sessions. And what the senior leaders said they were going to do was they were going to turn up and support some of them sessions. That's been a little bit hit and miss. So the people who have done that have been challenging the others, saying, hang on, that's not in line with the standards. We said we were going to do this. We all agreed to this. What's going on? And we've seen that kind of buzz around challenge and accountability that's starting to come through. not in droves yet, but we've seen them green shoots, and that's been good, because I think in terms of them simplified versions of what it means to people and what it means to them, people can challenge a lot better, because it's dead straightforward. Look at Stacey, you look as though you've been dragged through an edge backwards. Can you sort yourself out? So we've seen a lot of that, to be honest, because we've had people coming in who look like they've been rolling round in the plaster, never mind putting it on the wall. Look at the state. Go and get yourself a new uniform. Sort yourself out. So the challenge has started to come from the little things, and that's where I'd recommend to anybody to take the broken windows theory on its journey, because it really does give people something to go, well, that's not right, we need to fix that, and that challenge is now ramping up, and people taking that accountability. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy, it's not going to be easy, but the journey's really started, and I think Gail wants to chip in there.
I was going to say, I think what's helped that, really helped it massively, is the operatives getting their own feedback, because you can guarantee on a Monday, my previous role before I was in this one was head of customer experience, so I was the one that was always having a go at everybody. The customer said this, customer said that, and they used to talk about Gail mail, because I'd send, tell me what's happened here. But having those dashboards, you can guarantee every Monday, because the dashboard lands on a Monday for them, so this is what your customers have said about you last week. My phone would be red hot every Monday, because you'd have operatives ringing me saying, hey, that feedback that I got there, it was this, it wasn't that, and she wanted a full new kitchen and it was a repair, and that's why. So they're kind of holding themselves accountable and ringing you to tell you why they've got the poor feedback. So that's been a bit of a game changer. So they are kind of monitoring their own performance, which has helped when you're challenging behaviour. And to be able to go, you went to this on Wednesday, this customer said that, they said you were grumpy, is that a fair reflection? And they kind of go, yeah, do you know what, I was. So that's massively helped.
I think for us it's really been keeping it simple. Keeping it simple and not overcomplicating it, because if you overcomplicate it, it falls apart quite quickly. But keeping it simple and keeping that momentum and that focus has been the big catalyst for us.
Brilliant, thanks. Any final questions? No? John, you and HMS and the team have been great supporters of Direct Works. It's great to get you on the stage, it really is, because, as I say, in September, brilliant presentation. We went on for about 4 hours, I think, actually. But there was some brilliant questions, and I know we went into a lot of depth. So thank you, Stuart and Gail, for getting up there today and giving us a real glimpse of what the art of the possible is, I would suggest. I appreciate the fact you're on the journey, but you've come a hell of a long way. So just show a shine of appreciation.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Just a couple of things so we break to lunch. Thank you, guys. Just Daniel is over in the corner. Have a look at his product. He's really, really clever. It's really smart. So please go and see him and have a chat with him. And Paul Billington, who gave us 5 or 10 minutes earlier on when I was speaking, is also about for lunch. So again, have a chat with Paul and trying to get a bit more in depth in terms of what we're trying to create. Otherwise, thank you for this morning. Lunch, and let's get back at 1:30. Thank you.